Today I've got a good friend of mine, Ken Webb. We've been friends for years. He's a former CEO of Cleveland Utilities. He's currently on the Cleveland City Council. He's a great guy, and you're really going to enjoy this discussion as well as I am. Record it and video it, and we had over 52,000 views last week.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's a lot of people.
Well, you've had some interesting discussions, I know that.
We have, and it's not political or nothing like that. Just, are you glad that you're retired now from Cleveland Utilities? Was that?
You know, Dee, I don't miss the work, but I do miss the people and being around them on a daily basis. That's the most difficult thing about retirement, but I am enjoying having free time.
Do you remember the first day you walked into Cleveland Utilities as an employee?
I sure do.
What was that like?
Well, it was an unknown to me from the standpoint of all the challenges I was going to face in the work, but I had been around Cleveland Electric System and Cleveland Utilities since I was born even. My dad started out in 1950 digging post holes for Cleveland Electric System.
Now, did they call him Cobb Webb?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I'm not going to tell you, they called me Little Cobb. So I was familiar with Cleveland Utilities and Cleveland Electric System. It wasn't all new to me, although the job was new.
On the courthouse square at 30 2nd Street is the law firm of Logan Thompson Law. Since 1965, they have served the legal needs for the good citizens of Cleveland-Bradley County. If you've got a problem, they're no problem. Give them a call.
What year did you go in?
1987.
Oh. So you had, did you go there right after graduation?
No. When I graduated from Tennessee Wesleyan in 76, I went to work for Randolph and Kersey, the CPA firm here in Cleveland.
Oh, is that right?
I worked 5 years there. I tell anybody that's interested in accounting as a career, spend some time in a public accounting firm because it's the best experience you'll ever get.
Is it like the mass unit of accounting or something?
Kinda. It's taxes, it's audits, it's reviews, it's management services, advisory services. Mm-hmm. You cover a lot of different types of businesses and get exposed to a lot of different things. But after leaving Randolph and Kersey, I spent 6 years at American Uniform as chief accountant. And then had an opportunity to go to Cleveland Utilities in 1987.
I guess that was a little different work than...
It was. But you know, debits are still debits and credits are still credits.
I had a little short counting class. That's a little confusing, credits and debits. It's almost the opposite of what you'd think.
Well, it can be. I know exactly what you're referring to.
Were you good in math, or was that you just like organizing stuff?
I tell you, what really got me interested in accounting was a high school teacher that I had in bookkeeping. And that was Elizabeth Archer at Charleston School. And I took a bookkeeping course under her. And we did the practice sets like you used to do in school. And that's probably where my interest in accounting came from.
You were from Charleston originally?
Well, I was born here in Cleveland at Bradley Memorial. My mother and dad divorced when I was 2 years old. I lived with my dad, my grandparents, and an aunt of mine in Charleston. I went to Charleston School. There were 28 of us in our senior class, and I think 9 of us had been there all 12 years. So I'm local, but I did grow up in Charleston. And I just had my birthday number 70 earlier this month, and I have lived in Bradford County 68 of those 70 years. Back in the 80s, Diane, I lived over in Meigs County for a couple of years. But I did grow up in Charleston.
Who'd you graduate with? Who would have been somebody I know?
Robert White, Connie Hayden, Mike Allen, Janet Davis. She was Janet Skinner at the time. I was trying to think who else you might.
Now, Carl Collins, he's older than you, right?
He's older.
But he went to Charleston.
He went to Charleston. Sure
and
did.
Randall Fisher, they were in Calhoun, right?
Now, I don't know where Randall went to high school.
I think not Randall Fisher, Zane Harris, I meant. I don't know why I said Randall Fisher.
Zane might have been a Charleston graduate. I don't know.
He went to Tennessee Wesleyan, as you did, too,
Okay.
right?
He may have. I don't know that.
Boy, it's Charleston is really. I've got some apartments up there. I just love Charleston. I don't know why that is.
It's a neat little town.
They've got sewer. They got water. They got. I guess Charleston, in a lot of sense, is older than Cleveland.
Oh yes.
I mean, that's where Ross's landing. Ross's Chief John Ross was, right?
The first Bradford County High School was in Charleston.
See, people would never realize that.
And then, of course, you had Owen come in 1962. You had Bowater that opened in 54, I believe it was. And that kind of changed the complexion of Calhoun and Charleston.
I always thought that the Lamontville Road would be a big interchange at some point, but it's just never took off, has it?
No sewer.
That's the problem.
That's the problem.
And how would they get sewer there? It'd be a massive undertaking, wouldn't it?
I have no idea what the engineering would be on it. No, I do not.
There's been talk of getting it up there, but there's been talk of that since the beginning of sewer, hadn't it?
There was a lot of land clearing on exit 36 at one time not too long ago, and I didn't know what that was about, and nothing ever developed.
I know it. It's. If you go through Calhoun, you'll get a speeding ticket, most likely.
I got a good finger pointed at me up there the other day.
Oh, did you? Well, you were lucky. They must have already had somebody stopped. But yeah, I like Charleston, and it's so convenient. You know, you can be downtown Charleston from right here in about 9 minutes if the traffic is low, and they're going to widen that road up there.
It's getting closer and closer every day.
The Cleveland Utilities, from the time you walked in, it had a bunch of. It grew a lot, right?
Oh, sure.
I mean, golly.
I don't remember what the customer count was in '87 versus when I retired, but it was a continuous increase in the number of customers in electric, water, and sewer.
That's got to be a different type of business when you have to take new customers that come to you. I mean, you can't control.
A public utility has an obligation to serve, and what that means is if you have a customer over here and you have a customer over here, you're obligated to serve both of them regardless of the business implication of it. And that's the difference in a public utility and a private business. A private business can decide who they want to serve, but a public utility can't. If you're in their service area, then you've got to serve.
Well, that would be hard to want to expand the service area because you just might not cost. And nowadays things cost so much, it would cost a fortune to.
Well, it does cost more than it used to, that's for sure. That's for sure.
I remember the days of Bob Lonis and Collins, and they would run sewer, and Calvin Hampton, and it's just all they could do to keep up with what Cleveland Utilities was bidding out and that stuff. And Madison Truett was drawing.
It was busy, and it's still busy from what I hear.
I'm sure it is. But I just sort of get burnt out with all the big business like that, don't you? I guess you reach an age where you just don't want to deal with that.
Well, I think it's important to remember too, though, if a community's not growing and adding new businesses, they're probably backing up. We did a little study at Cleveland Utilities one time, and we made this long list of businesses. And then we went through there and we marked off the businesses that were no longer there. And it was amazing how many had come and gone over the number of years we were looking at. Well, if you're not replacing those that have gone with someone, a new business or someone else coming into a business, then you're not providing jobs for your people.
Well, that's really something, and I've heard that from people. You have to be, a community has to grow or it reverses. It can't really stay, and that's a hard thing to comprehend, because everybody wants it to stay the same, like a Norman Rockwell painting or something, but
it doesn't. It never stands still. You're either going forward or you're backing up.
boy, that is really something to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Why couldn't it just stay the same? I guess it just. And here's another thing. Say you were servicing sewer here, and here, and here, and these people move out and they turn the water off. Now you're not even getting anything from that.
Mm-hmm.
But you already ran it to it.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
So.
I mean, just look at some large industries that we used to have in Cleveland that are no longer here. Fortunately, some new ones maybe have replaced them. You know, M&M Mars used to be Burlington,
Mm-hmm.
or Peerless.
Yeah, Peerless Wool Mill.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, but you're right. You could have service to a large industry and it close. I've often thought about TVA and Bowater shutting down. What kind of large load they lost there.
Yeah, and it's hard to make that up with a little duplex townhouse that's got a minimum service of $40 a month or something.
But it takes it all. It takes it all.
Boy, that would be a very, very, very complicated thing, because you can't shut down. It's got to keep going.
It's got to keep going.
No matter what the cost, it's got to keep going.
I have people say to me sometimes that they wish we weren't growing. They wish we didn't have more people moving here. And it really bothers me to hear that, because I don't think they understand the concept that if we don't have people moving here, we're backing up, because people are leaving here too. Mm-hmm. But I tell you, I would much rather live in a community where people are really wanting to move here than a community where people are just trying to find a way out.
Boy, that's profound. I hadn't thought about it that way, because we've already determined that you can't be just stagnant.
That's right. That's right.
And maybe downtown Charleston got stagnant. I guess that goes back to our point. You know, it was bigger than Cleveland, then Cleveland became bigger, and mm-hmm. It's still a great place, but it's...
Mm-hmm. I've heard different theories about why Charleston remained the size that it was, and I don't know if any of them are right or not. That there was land, but it might not be available for development, mm-hmm. and other things like that.
But, boy, Cleveland sure is growing. I mean, it's mind-boggling, isn't it? I mean,
I told somebody the other day, and you'll remember this. Do you remember when we used to call Keith Street the Keith Street Bypass?
Oh, yeah. Well, did you see that in the newspaper or Facebook or something, where they were showing the newspaper clippings of when they were talking about bringing Keith Street
It was in this morning's paper.
Oh, was that this morning?
Uh-huh.
Somebody told me about it yesterday, I think.
Well, it's Saturday's paper.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
And those people that were on there, I recognized their
mm-hmm.
name, Ben Moore's daddy and mm-hmm. Cletus Benton. And
mm-hmm.
at that time, I guess it was just I-75 and North Ocoee, or North Lee Highway and Ocoee Street, right?
Well, see, 75 didn't open here until the early 70s.
So Keith Street was already...
It was Ocoee Street.
Ocoee Street, yeah. Mm-hmm. That was it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, if you could get a crystal ball to the future and say, okay, 50 years. You about have to go out 50 years, I think. I don't know. Maybe we end up with a bigger bypass around Cleveland. Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know, Dick. I don't know. I've always felt like one thing that would be helpful, but it won't happen in my lifetime. We have I-75 is I-275 or something from Dalton to north of Cleveland. I think that would make a huge difference in this area so that you bypass Chattanooga. I think it would connect us up to more parts of the world, but
because it's getting so congested that right there at where I-75 meets, you know, like you can either go to Knoxville, Chattanooga, or Atlanta. Well, there's got to be some real forward-thinking people to counteract this stuff.
You can. That was one thing I always enjoyed working at Cleveland Utilities during budget time. We always did the next year's forecast, and then we forecast out another 9 years so that we had a rolling 10-year plan at all times. And we tried to anticipate what the demand would be and what the challenges would be and the funding issues for the next 10 years.
That's almost, I guess that's more important than the daily stuff, because you could get in bigger trouble later if you're not ready.
That's true. That's true.
It takes some real thinking minds to figure all that out.
And of course, the further out you get from the current time, the more assumptions you're using.
Right.
So the more likelihood that it's not all going to work out that way. But we always made an effort to try to do that long-range planning.
Do you think people should operate their lives that way, their individual lives? 10-year plan, 1-year plan, 20-year plan?
I sure can't see any problem in it. I sure can't.
You can almost pick out individuals that have a 10-year plan or a 5-year plan. Jim Sharp used to always say, Dee, where are you going to be in 5 years? And if I saw him the next year, he'd say, Dee, where are you going to be in 5? For some reason, he had 5 in his mind.
He kept rolling it forward.
Yeah. But 5 years goes by so quick. I mean, we're already almost at the end of January, and I thought it's just Christmas.
It does move quick.
Did you, and living in Charleston, did you play sports or anything at the Charleston school, or?
I did not play basketball or football. Charleston had a track team. I used to love to run. And I would have been active in track had we had the opportunity.
Where did you run mostly?
I did some at Charleston when I was in probably about the 5th or 6th grade. We got kind of active in a little county league, but I don't run anymore.
Now, somebody told me the other day that you were doing some estate stuff now.
My wife and I, as if we didn't have enough to do in retirement, 3 or 4 years ago, there's a family in our church that the gentleman had passed away, the lady was in the nursing home, and they asked us if we would help them liquidate the contents of the house. And then the house was going to be sold. And Diane and I have kind of dabbled in antiques for years. And so we helped this family, and that was right about the time COVID hit. But we got the contents of the house liquidated. And then we had 2 or 3 more families in the church that needed to do an estate sale because parents had either passed away or they had gone to assisted living or something. And so we helped 2 or 3 more families. And then word kind of got out that Ken and Diane were doing estate sales. And next thing we know, we're in business.
So it's sort of an accidental thing.
Sort of. We don't want to do it every day of the week. We try to do 3 or 4 a year. Because it's a lot of work.
What's the thinking with that? The relatives don't want it, or how does that work?
Well, there's two or three things. And my wife would tell you that it's more than just a hobby or a job. It's more like a ministry. Because there are a lot of times the family might be capable of doing it, but it's difficult for them to do it.
I bet.
If we go in a house to do an estate sale and this cup is there, it's a cup. And we're going to try to sell it for 50 cents or $1.
Yeah.
If the family goes in the house,
Golly.
this is a cup that Aunt Joe gave Uncle Bob for his 75th birthday.
And it's got a chip on it or
And
whatever.
it has a sentimental attachment to it. And that takes that responsibility away from the family if someone else goes in and does
Because
the
they
sale.
can't feasibly just take everything.
No.
And most of it is, in our eyes, it's sort of on the borderline of junk, but too good to throw away.
Dee, it is amazing what people will buy, though. We tell the families that we're working for, don't ever throw anything away. Let us try to sell it for you. Then if it doesn't sell, we'll do something with it. But it is amazing what people are out there looking for.
I had a friend of mine that had a yard sale here a while back, and somebody bought a half a jar of Vaseline. They had it just on the table, and so people buy anything, won't they?
They will. They will.
Do you think that a lot of people are doing that because maybe they're not, maybe it's not that cup, but that cup looked like one that their grandmother got? Who knows?
Could be. And I may be speaking a little out of turn here, but do you remember when we were kids and someone would go to Florida and they would bring back a stuffed alligator about this long? You remember
Yep.
those? We did a sale not too long ago. There was one of those stuffed alligators in the sale. Well, that's kind of a novelty piece, you know, from the past. But this alligator was missing 3 legs, and the 4th leg was attached with Scotch tape. The alligator sold.
Somebody had that memory. That's so important, though, to them.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You never know what makes people remember. If you can jolt somebody a good memory in them, you can really sell them stuff.
Well, and it makes them feel good.
It does.
It makes them, it's not all just about selling it. It makes them feel good. And oftentimes we've been able to tell people that we work for, you remember that such and such that your dad had? Well, there was an individual that bought it that was so thrilled to get it. Their dad used to have
Yeah.
one like that.
Now it gives them a reason to let go. It is a ministry, isn't it?
It is.
At that point.
It is. It is.
I mean, you're not doing yard sales, you're doing estate sales. That's different.
It's different. It's different.
Do you think most people have stuff in their house that they think's not really worth anything? If you have an estate sale, can you really, like make pretty good on it, or it's
Well, I mean,
like $10,000 or something,
Well,
or
it just depends on what you have. Things that people collect today are not the same things that they used to collect 20 years ago. We went through a time where depression glass, or any kind of glassware for that matter, was very, very collectible.
what do you mean by depression glass?
Depression glass was made back in the 30s.
You mean like the
It's
greens
glass.
and the greens and blues?
The greens and the blues, the pinks.
Like Sheridan Randolph used to have tons of that.
I didn't know that,
Yeah.
but yeah. But there's no market for it now. We have a different mindset now. A lot of people do that old stuff just means nothing to them. And then we went through a period of time where a lot of reproductions were being made,
Yeah.
and that really affected the value of it. My wife has a collection of what's called iris and herringbone. It is beautiful glassware. We collected it for years, and I don't know if you could give it away now.
I went to one of these antique shops. Of course, now they're not necessarily antique shops. They're sort of nostalgic and antique shops. It was in Dayton. Oh, it might have been Decatur. And they had these green, I was building this barn that had sort of green was the color of the insides, or the accent colors. And they had these 8 coffee cups that were the perfect green. And they were Hull.
Oh, okay.
Which was it's like the one that everybody wanted at the time. So it said $8 on it, and there were five coffee cups. So I thought, well, it was 5 coffee cups and a little vase, all the same color. And I thought it said $8, and I thought, well, 8 times 5's $40. I'll buy it. So I went to the register, and they put the paper on it, put it in a bag and everything, and I handed her I forget what it was. Anyway, it was $8 for the whole set. I thought, man, how they've had that much in the paper, nearly wrapping it for me.
Yeah.
But I've still got them. I like them, but you know, it just amazes me what items that do ring in people's memories, that give them so much good memories. I read a book about, I believe it was Ava's Man. And the whole premise of the book was how they moved as a child, and the bad childhood and the good childhood and everything, and all their moving and stuff. But this one oil lamp followed, they kept taking this oil lamp with them, and the oil lamp was sort of the comfort thing that, you know, it may not be home, but that's our lamp. That's so important, isn't it?
It becomes a security blanket, too.
A security blanket, same thing.
Same thing. But yes, we've been in the estate sale business now for 3 or 4 years. And matter of fact, we're working on one right now. And this was a couple that they both passed away. And the family has been in and divided up what they want. And they wanted us to help liquidate the rest of it, and that's what we'll do.
And it'll just bring what it brings, and
Usually wind up donating the rest.
do you have auctions? Is it an auction set up?
It's not an auction. We go in, say we went in this room we're in right now. We would inventory and organize everything that's in here. And then we would put a tag on it with a price on it. And then the day of the sale, people would come in, and if they're interested in that item over there, then they look at the tag, and that's the price. And they come to the table and pay for it, and that's it.
Now, are you now to where you can sort of tell what things would bring?
My wife is very good at that. She keeps up with that.
So she would kind of know what that picture frame with no picture in it would bring, that sort of stuff.
Right. And she'd know what the likelihood of that picture frame selling. Some things sell, some things don't.
And it makes you want to sort of say, well, we'll take these things that didn't sell to the next one. You know, who knows, it might sell at the next one.
Well, then you get into a problem of storage. You know, where are you going to keep all that stuff?
You ever go down to Antique Parlor?
Oh, yeah.
I love to go down there.
Oh, yeah. It's a good business here in town.
Yeah, they have like an 8x8 or 10x8s. And
Now, I tell you what has changed the antique business, in my opinion, in the last few years, is the internet. People look for things on eBay now where they used to go to a brick and mortar store to look for it. You ask about the pricing. The internet has helped to keep up with that because you can see what things have sold for.
Yeah.
Or what they're out there, somebody's asking for.
That was eBay. eBay was, that's what you're talking about, like eBay or...
But I don't know if this is a ministry, a hobby, or a job at this point in time. It's probably a combination of all three of them.
Well, you got to have something you're doing.
Yeah.
You got to have something you're doing. Did you, when you retired, did you feel a void of what do I do now? Was it mentally hard?
No, no. I had several commitments and obligations with my church, and even in a broader area than just the church, as far as the Holston Conference of the Methodist Church. I've served on the foundation board. I'm a trustee at Tennessee Wesleyan. Been a board member of Life Bridges for, I don't know, 17, 18 years probably.
Golly.
So that took some. I had some commitments that I didn't just suddenly have all free time.
Could you see that if you did have all free time, it would have been harder?
Oh yeah, I think you need to be doing something. I don't want to sit and watch TV all day.
Does that something need to be something you feel like you're making a difference in, or could it just be walking, or could it just be mowing your yard, or does it need to be something that you feel like you're making a difference for something?
Well, I think it's important that if we have certain talents, we use them.
That's what the Bible says, right?
I think we're obligated to do that. And, you know, that was one reason that got me interested in the city council 5 years ago, was I'd been around the council for right at 30 years while I was at Cleveland Utilities, and I felt like there were situations where I could help some.
And it would stay, so when you retired, you were not city councilman. You started to become city councilman after you retired.
I had been retired 2 years.
So that was the way you thought would be sort of staying involved and active and relevant? Would you use that word, relevant?
And it keeps you challenged.
You got to read up on that stuff. You can't just willy-nilly say yay or nay.
Oh, no. If you do that job right, it takes a significant amount of time to do it.
Because you got a lot of stuff to read that the staff sends and all that stuff.
You don't just show up on the second and fourth Monday for 3 or 4 hours and that's it.
And they got the work
Work
sessions too.
Voting session at 3.
Is being on city council harder than what you thought it was from looking on the outside, or is it easier? What would you?
I think it creates more challenges than I realized it would. Just from the standpoint of trying to keep everything balanced. It's a balancing act.
Between friends, relationship, and what the city needs, what it doesn't need, budget.
What it can afford, what it can't afford. I've told people at the city before, same as I've told them at my church when we're talking about a budget, you know, the pie is this big. Mm-hmm. We can cut it in 4 pieces or we can cut it in 8 pieces, but the pie is still this big.
You know, I have that problem with people in the construction business. I'll say, the lot's 100 foot wide, your building's 50, you need 60 for parking, you're 10 foot short.
Yeah.
And they'll say, well, yeah, but maybe there's something we can work out. And I'm saying, no, there's not. Your building's 50, the parking's 60, that's 110, you have 100 feet. And they'll say, yeah, well, maybe there's something we can do different. And it just astounds me how people are they not thinking? Do they think I'm mismeasuring the length of a car?
They're just thinking you're that good.
I don't know. I think that some people do not have a concept of that's all there is. Maybe they're used to being able to talk people into more or skating, going over the gray areas. Mm. But when you're talking about stuff like maybe budget or the width of a lot, there's nothing more to discuss.
There's nothing
You know,
more
you're
to
going to buy the lot next door, or you're going to cut the building down. Which one you going to do? But I can't, and then we start talking about this stuff for hours, and I'm thinking, we've not even approached this problem of you're out of room. So I guess it's the same, right?
It's basically the same. I understand what you're saying.
And it gets frustrating because you're talking about something that's not even, we haven't gotten past that one.
I sit and I listen to people talk about what they'd like to see the government do. Well, that's great, but how are you going to fund it? Are you willing to pay your fair share of it?
And they'll say no, and say, well, where do you want me to get it?
Yeah. Or what do you want me to cut out somewhere else? So that's why I say it's a balancing act.
You know, who was it? What was the famous, or I guess Max Carroll, who we all knew, his famous line was, who's going to feed that elephant? In other words, after we've gotten it, now who's going to feed it? And where are you going to feed it from? Boy, government it's really tricky trying to figure out how to, like you said, it's a balancing act, and which one has more weight? I guess it depends on the situation. You know, I was on the planning commission for like 27 years, and before I got on there, I would have criticized people for their decisions. Now, after being on there, and I'm not on there now, I wouldn't criticize any decision because I've not studied all the other issues.
Exactly.
And so, did you have that experience when you went on there and you thought, well, now I know why they made...
Still have that experience some
right.
days. Yeah, exactly. And it's not that you're not telling them the whole story. It's just that the facts or the circumstances are different than they might realize they are.
I want to call it the nuances are different than we have time to explain. But it's very difficult. It's very difficult. I guess every business has that problem, but especially government, because they're making budgets for the following year, not the year they're in.
You never know what economic circumstances are going to be, the surprises that are coming down the road. That's one thing we tried to do at Cleveland Utilities by doing that 10-year plan, was eliminate and provide for as many surprises as might crop up.
At least maybe hedge your bets a little bit.
Yeah.
If you don't have a plan, any road will take you there, they used to say.
That's right.
Do you think the city council, this is obviously you're going to say yes, but a good cohesive group, or not cohesive, but maybe a good back and forth that's healthy?
I think so. There's nothing wrong with debate. Matter of fact, I think it was Lyndon Johnson that said, show me two people that agree on everything and I'll show you someone that's not thinking.
Right.
But I think we work well together. And I think we're accomplishing a lot.
Well, there seems to be a lot of things going on that you're hearing about that you'd hear about them and they might not ever happen. Seems like now when you hear about them, you start seeing some things. And I don't know if that's my imagination or what, but it seems like things are starting to happen. It may be just out of have to.
Well, and sometimes projects move slow, and that's another thing that people don't understand. You get into some of these projects, you get into state involvement or federal involvement, environmental review.
Stormwater. You get into a lot of them, and it just takes time to get them done. And more so now than it would have taken 30 years ago because there's so many more rules.
Oh, goodness, yes.
Do you think that are more rules a necessity? Are we going to get to the point where we can't do anything because of rules? I mean, are they making things better, or I don't know the answer to that, but...
Well, I guess the reason we have rules is because somebody has done something that created a problem that if there had been a rule, that problem wouldn't have occurred. And maybe we go overboard on the rules sometimes. I don't know. But you've got to have rules.
You gotta have rules, and you can't make rules just for, say somebody walks across the street and they get hit by a car. Well, we can't have anybody drive down the road anymore. That's
That's a
going
bad
too
rule.
far.
That's a bad rule.
Speed limit, that's a good rule. So I don't. There again, that's another balancing act.
It's a balancing act.
And maybe as we go along, some rules become irrelevant because we don't have those situations no more.
Well, yeah.
Like you can't ride like maybe when they had horse and buggies, maybe they got too many rules, but it doesn't matter now because we don't have those anymore. We got cars.
Exactly.
So it's ever evolving.
Mm-hmm. And that's why you're constantly looking at ordinances and so forth. Does this need updating? Have the circumstances changed that prompted this rule?
Mm-hmm.
And do we need to change that rule because the circumstances are different now?
That would be probably 10% of all the meetings. Do we need to update these, or do we need to eliminate some, or does this one not work and now we need to do it differently?
Well, we're constantly amending ordinances because a different situation has come up, or it's no longer needed, or it needs strengthening, or it needs loosening. It's not unusual to amend a rule.
You miss Charlie McKenzie?
Oh, yeah.
He was a great guy, wasn't he?
He was a good guy. He was a good guy.
You could count on him, couldn't you?
Oh, yes.
I mean, he was,
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
His wife, Marcia's doing a good job
They
on the
say
council.
she is.
She's been a great addition. The council works well together.
What is there, 7 of them?
Yes.
7.
5 districts and 2 at large.
2 at large. Boy, it just seems, it's so mind-boggling. Somebody's got to be running it. I guess that's Joe Fibus is the main, the arms of it, because y'all can't go out and do the stuff. It wouldn't be I don't know how he does, to be honest with you.
I really, some days I don't either, Dave.
Man, how in the world?
I can tell you right now, I would have not been interested in serving on the council had we not had a city manager form of government.
I don't know how you do it with the size we are. It probably worked fine when they had it the other way.
It probably did.
There's probably studies that show when you get this much population, you have to go to that. Is there another form when you get busier? I wonder about that. Is there another form of government?
I can't really answer that. Some communities have and I guess larger communities have a strong mayor form, maybe.
But that may be for smaller towns. I don't know.
But I think we're where we need to be on the form of government in Cleveland right now.
So it's all working well. What else do you see as far as you got any other hobbies besides all of that? Because you sound pretty busy.
I love yard work. I don't golf. I never got into golfing.
Yeah.
There's times that I wish I had. I've been a few times and embarrassed myself and everybody with me. So, but my wife and I travel quite a bit. We have a daughter and her family live up in Irwin, Tennessee.
Where is Irwin?
It's between Johnson City and Asheville on I-26.
So you go up and take a right, sort of.
We like to go up there as often as we can.
What's she do up there?
She is the secretary for Love Chapel Elementary School. And her husband teaches in the vocational school at Unicoi County High School. He teaches carpentry.
Is that right?
And then my other daughter and her family and son-in-law live between here and Charleston. I've got 2 daughters, 2 son-in-laws, and 4 grandchildren.
Golly, that's a lot, isn't it?
I'm proud of them.
I saw you at Green Acres the other day. Boy, they got good biscuits, don't they?
Don't they, though?
I don't know where they get them.
See, you may not realize it, but Brent, the cook.
Yeah, it's your
half-brother.
Half-brother, yeah. Yeah, I knew that.
Okay.
Boy, Brent's, no matter what he does, he's going to win, isn't he?
But no, I go out and eat breakfast with him quite often. It's good.
I wonder if they get those biscuits frozen or do they make them there?
I don't know.
They're as good as, Calfee's out on 64 are real good. And those are as good, or maybe, I think Brent cooks them a little longer. They're a little more crispy. I like them crispy.
He had open-faced roast beef sandwiches the other day for lunch.
Yeah.
They were out of this world.
I know one thing, don't walk through the kitchen. I ate there here a while back with somebody. I forget who it was. It was Meatloaf Day.
Yeah.
It was good.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
I saw Larry Hooper in there the other morning. Does he come in there a lot?
I don't,
It was maybe 8:30 or so. I think it was that day it was started snowing real bad.
I don't know if he does or not. I don't know.
Do you think that, would you have ever thought when you was going to Charleston High School that you would have ended up being on the board of trustees at Tennessee Wesleyan?
Never
and
thought about
on
it.
president of Cleveland Utilities, the president of Cleveland Utilities, and on the Cleveland City Council?
I've been a very blessed man.
I mean, that's if you stop and think, that's pretty astonishing.
Well, thank you.
But you never saw any of that coming.
I probably never thought that far ahead.
What do you attribute it to?
Well, as I told you, I lived with my dad, my grandparents, and my dad's sister. And I had a grandmother that took care of me.
Never fails.
I give her a lot of the credit. I give a lot of credit to teachers I had at Charleston School. And I can name them, but I'm not going to because I'll leave someone out. But I will name one in particular. And that was Walter Bettis. He was a math teacher. And he also taught industrial arts or woodworking. And to this day, I still have a walnut bedroom suit I made under him in high school. And he kind of took me under his wings, and he would guide me along, and he made sure I was doing what I needed to be doing. But my grandmother played a big role in my life.
Isn't it funny that some people will do stuff that they'd have no idea they're doing, and it affects somebody their whole entire life?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
And some people do just the opposite. So it's good, but usually there's a grandmother involved. What was her maiden name?
She was a Haney.
Were they from up that area?
Her daddy, my great-grandfather, had a general merchandise store in the old downtown Charleston. So my roots go back pretty far up there.
Was that the Haney's meat packing? Was
No,
that
that's a different family. I went to school with Connie Haney, Billy and Sue's daughter, but that was a different Haney family.
So in your whole graduating class, there were only 28?
Yes, sir.
You think that was good, a small group?
Well, we certainly knew each other.
I mean, there was 9 of you. You knew each other well.
Yes.
Think about that.
I know. You don't hear of that anymore.
That's something. 9 people went to school for 12 years.
Out of 28.
I mean, that's knowing them. That's the good and the bad, isn't it?
It is.
I know a lot of people that went to Charleston, they really enjoyed that school.
Oh, yes.
I guess it's Walker Valley now.
It is. And,
isn't that sad?
That was one of my biggest disappointments, was that Walker Valley was not named Charleston High School.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, I was on the committee that helped choose the name. And there was just quite a bit of opposition to that at the time. But I think it would have helped the Charleston community if the Charleston High School had remained.
You would have felt an alumni at that point, and now you sort of
It's gone.
Yeah.
It's gone.
At least call it Mr. Bettis High or something.
Well,
Isn't there a Bettis Road over there behind the school?
I don't think so.
Or,
You're thinking about Newport.
Well, but Bettis, there is a Bettis across the street. Isn't there at dead ends up at past the railroad tracks? I think it's a Bettis Lane. It's close to that restaurant. What, Stacy's?
Uh-huh.
You ever eat at Stacy's?
Uh-huh.
It's good, isn't it? It's like a buffet style.
Matter of fact, 4 of us Charleston guys met and had lunch there the other day.
What, they had chicken and meatloaf? Mm-hmm. That's what they had when I was there.
It was good, too.
It was good. It wasn't crowded. Nice and warm. I mean, it's clean. That place is, I wonder how long that's been there. I mean, it's had to have been before they had regulations as far as building.
Oh, I'm sure. That building has been there a long time. I remember that building as a kid.
Isn't that something?
Mm-hmm. My grandfather had a blacksmith shop in Charleston.
A blacksmith. I mean, a real life blacksmith.
He was a blacksmith. He tied brooms and sold them, and he ground corn for people. And that was what he did for a living. He retired in 1957, I believe it was. But when the railroad spur was built down to Olin, it went right through where his shop was.
Oh.
They tore it down.
Tied brooms. That was a real business.
Oh, I regret to this day that he didn't teach me how to do that. And I knew where his equipment was for a long time, and it has since fallen into disrepair. I don't even know where it is anymore.
That's an example of a business that became no longer relevant, like a radiator shop.
Yeah.
Or, manufacturing or buggy whips or something.
Mm-hmm. Textile industry.
Textile industry. That just died overnight, didn't it, basically? What will be next? We don't know, do we?
We don't know.
I saw a thing the other day where they had come up with a new way to do solar panels, and I thought, oh, Lord, what if they do away with a new technology that Bacher doesn't, or not Bacher, Bacher that doesn't do or something. You'd never know what's going to all of a sudden change what, I mean, you can't name them all.
That goes back to what we were talking about, that if you're not replacing industries or businesses that are going by the wayside with something new, then where are your people going to work?
That's what it's all about.
You know, we've been so fortunate here in Bradley County in industrial development. Mm-hmm. The new industrial park's filling up.
It's filling up.
That's great.
Who would have thought? I guess they did. The people that Industrial Development Board.
The area up around Charleston where Bacher is, who would have ever thought Amazon, GE, and Bacher would have been in Charleston?
You'd have never dreamed it. I mean, you take Olin, Bowater. Is Bowater still there? It's in a form.
They have a different product now.
But they're there.
Yeah.
They're going to be pulling in there tomorrow morning. So you got Bowater, Olin, Bacher, GE, and Amazon. Mm-hmm. That's significant.
That's a lot. It's a lot of employees, but it's a lot of families too, mm-hmm, that are depending on those jobs for their daily life.
And you got the new convenience store that's going in the front of it, mm-hmm, which is something, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Then you got Love's Truck Stop. Mm-hmm. I think that a lot of people will be coming down from Riceville and Nyota and Athens to work there, and will they take a ride on Lauderdale? Will they come on down through Charleston, or will they take a right and go by Bacher? I wonder how that, or will they go the interstate? I don't know.
I don't know. That was part of the conversation we had, that the city's been working with the state for quite some time now on improving North Ocoee and 25th Street, that intersection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And hopefully that's in the pipeline now. Mm-hmm. There's 2 state highways coming together right there.
Yep.
We've done everything as far as the city has that they've asked us to do. But that's not just a city issue right there, that traffic congestion. Mm-hmm. You have people coming in from Polk County. Mm-hmm. You have people coming in probably from McMinn County. You may
People
have some
going to Polk County?
people going to Polk County. It's a regional issue right there, and that's one of the points that I've made when we've been talking with some of the state folks on that, is that this is not just to solve a problem for Cleveland, this is a whole regional issue. You have the Pie Center there, you have the hospital there.
Hospital, yeah.
So I'm anxious to see that project get off the ground.
And boy, it needs it. I almost hate going through there.
Well, certain times of day.
It's just, and if you go through there like on 3 o'clock on a Monday when school's in, you just can't hardly get there. You'll stop 6 times before you, if you don't go through the CVS parking lot.
We've got several areas like that need addressing and will be addressed over time. And like we said a while ago, you just can't do it all at once.
Oh, you can't. And you may even if you could do it right now, you may think, well, if we apply for a grant, maybe we won't have to pay for it, and maybe we can wait 3 months or maybe a possible grant, and then there's not one. But things just take time. Things take time, longer time than they used to.
It probably takes you longer to build a building now than it used to.
It takes me 3 months to start one.
I'm sure.
You know, used to, I could meet you, I use this analogy, I could meet somebody at Shoney's on Sunday and be digging their footing the next Friday.
That's pretty good.
And nowadays, it takes them 3 months to decide what they want to build, 3 months to get a permit. There's 21, if you in certain circumstances, there's 27 inspections. If you had natural gas and water and sewer and all those things. And you figure if you need to give them a day's notice, that could be 54 days of delay of nothing going on, or maybe something going on, but it just takes time longer. Things take more time. And there's not going to be a reversing of that, I don't think.
I don't foresee that. I don't foresee that. But, there's a lot of discussion and debate about the environment. And I think in some instances we've seen things that have gone above and beyond what they should have in protecting the environment. But had we not done something years ago, we'd be poisoning ourselves right now.
Remember Dye Creek?
Yes, sir.
Which was Mouse Creek Road?
Yes, sir.
Larry Presswood said you could look at the water and tell what color they were running that day.
That's exactly right. And maybe we've gone overboard in some areas, but I'm glad as a nation we have realized that we cannot just continue to poison ourselves and destroy the planet.
And it's just another month. It's not like you can't.
There's just rules to go by.
People are more impatient in a way now than they used to be, and in some ways, they're more patient than they used to be. It just depends on if you're pitching or catching, doesn't it?
I guess.
Depends on which one you're dealing with. The Methodist Church, which one do you go to?
Wesley on Peerless Road.
Because I know there's one in Calhoun.
There's a Calhoun United Methodist. There's a Charleston United Methodist.
The Calhoun United Methodist, isn't that the oldest one in like Bradley County or something?
Well, of course, Calhoun's in McMinn County.
Yeah, but
Charleston Methodist was founded in 1864, I think.
I've got a book in there. I've got Joe Bryan coming in a few weeks, the city
okay.
manager of Calhoun. Boy, he's a nice guy.
Oh,
isn't he?
he's a great guy.
God, you don't get any nicer than him.
Charleston Methodist Church was where Billy Graham preached his first sermon.
Golly. Well, I never knew that. Billy Graham preached his first sermon.
When he was a student at Bob Jones University here in Cleveland.
Probably.
It's what I've always been told anyway.
Well, I guess he did if he was studying to be a preacher there.
Yeah.
But Joe told me that the Calhoun Methodist was formed in 1815.
Okay.
I guess that's where they took the Indians across and tried to teach them religion.
I believe Charleston was 1860 something. It could have been earlier than that. I don't remember.
But the Methodist churches were more common here than the Church of God through this region.
Well, the Church of God actually came out of the Methodist Church.
Came out of the Methodists. And the Methodists, what did they come out of?
John Wesley.
John Wesley Hardin. No, John Wesley. And Campbell, the Campbell guy too, wasn't he involved? That was the Restoration movement, right? That's the wrong word.
That was prior to John Wesley. Yeah, you're thinking about Martin Luther.
No, I'm thinking of, I know what you're talking about. I've got the name of it wrong. But it was the movement where I forget. It might have been like a Protestant movement or something. I may have that messed up. But they were all around through here because they were like ministering to the Indians, right? Is that right? They were a big help to the Indians.
The circuit riders.
Circuit riders, yeah. So Wesleyan, that's down here on the right?
It's at the corner of Peerless Road and Norman Chapel.
Yeah. Vernon West, and I think he goes there maybe. Gwen goes there. Do you go there, Gwen?
Church of God Prophecy.
Oh, okay.
Just down the road.
Down the street.
Yeah, that's right. So what else is going on?
Well,
Ken?
we've got a lot of projects going on at the city. I'm excited about the renovation of the old Cherokee Hotel, converting it to City Hall.
Yeah, they mentioned that about me doing that, and I was just too busy. But that's the place for it. It's the place for it to make Cleveland downtown relevant.
Well, I tell you what, there are different opinions on this about whether City Hall needed to remain downtown or not. But we're asking developers to invest millions of dollars in downtown Cleveland. You have the new HHM building, Agora apartments, the Santa Jose Mill apartments. We're getting ready to do the Cherokee Hotel. It's not fair to ask all these developers and investment folks to put their money in downtown Cleveland, and then you just up and move out of downtown Cleveland. So I think it sends a good statement that the city is committed to downtown. I was in the old Cherokee just the other day. It's been completely gutted inside. A lot of potential there. And within the next 2 or 3 months, we should have some renderings back from the architect on what their proposal is.
I always thought people want more downtown, more living downtown. If they get enough, it'd just be a neighborhood. It won't be a downtown. You have to have a reason for people to go downtown. And that's the reason for shopping and for government. I mean, people have been going downtown since they've had a town.
Oh, yeah.
You have to have a downtown, don't you?
You do. And if your downtown is just falling apart, it sends the wrong message about your whole community.
Well, you're exactly right.
If you don't care enough to maintain your downtown and make it as appealing as possible, then you're just sending a message that it just doesn't matter.
And you're not a town, I guess, right?
Right.
I mean, let's suppose that all the government stuff went online.
Okay.
Would anybody have a reason to go downtown?
No. We have our courthouse downtown, county government downtown, and
Police
that's a
station.
draw.
Police station, which
Police station. We have several retail businesses downtown. Stamper's Furniture is a jewel downtown.
they've been there forever. Gardeners, they've been there.
Restaurants. I was glad to see the resale shop open up in the old Chase Appliance
Well, it
building.
looks good, doesn't it?
It does look good.
Just from the road, it really looks good. They keep it really clean, I've noticed.
Have you been in the HHM building, the old Moore building?
No, but I had the guy here that was running that, and whatever he's doing, I guarantee it looks good because he's top notch.
I've been in it a couple of times.
Just think of what that did look like.
Oh, I know.
I mean,
I'm surprised it didn't fall down.
I think it was sort of falling down by all rights.
It was. But no, I can remember downtown of years ago, my great-grandmother on my mother's side, do you remember the old house that used to be on the north end of the woolen mill, by any chance?
Yeah, and that's the parking lot now, right? And didn't she have a steep front yard?
No, but if you're at the corner of Church and Third, there's a sign there now that says something about Old Woolen Mill or something. But there's a little short sidewalk that goes diagonally off that corner in the southeast quadrant. That was the sidewalk to my great-grandmother's steps to her house.
Is that right?
And I can,
So was it on the same side, same corner as the one mill, or across the street?
same side, same corner. But I can remember being there, visiting her, and walking uptown, and the businesses that used to be up there, and you'd visit them, and I think the better days for downtown Cleveland are still ahead of us.
I remember I stayed with my grandmother on Harrell Avenue, Harrell and Willow, and we would walk down to Sanitary Food Liner and walk up to Cooper's Sporting Goods, around the courthouse, and then I'd walk on that wall where the stones aren't red.
Yeah.
What is that?
The Episcopal Church.
Yeah, and then we'd go to the library where they had the book readings. You could go in there. And then go to Deer Park. Boy, that was a good day.
Oh yeah.
Just walking.
Yeah. I used to like to go to Cooper's bookstore down there. I mentioned earlier about being in woodworking when I was in high school, and I decided I wanted to make this light fixture one year. And you see some light fixtures that are like a yoke for an oxen.
Yeah, different types of.
And finding the pieces for it was a real challenge. And Mr. Tyner in Cooper's bookstore, I walked in, told him what I was doing. He said, "I believe we can help you out." He pulled these catalogs out, and we started making a list of the pieces he was going to order for me, and it worked.
Isn't that something? What made you think of that, of Cooper's bookstore,
Well,
Cooper's?
you mentioned Cooper's.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what made you think he would have something for the lamp?
Somebody told me
Just
that
something.
they had light fixture parts there.
What typically goes downtown? How do they revitalize places like that? I know how they did Chattanooga, but
Well, I think you have to make it appealing from just the looks of it. I think you have to make it clean. I think you have to make it safe. I think you have to control the traffic.
pedestrian, real pedestrian friendly. And people have to have you're thinking that if it looks better, businesses will come rather than businesses being there, and then it'll look nicer. So build it and they will come, sort of thing.
And we have the grant for the new bridge over the railroad track on 3rd Street.
Yeah, I can't wrap my head around that, but is that going to happen?
Well, I sure hope it does.
If you look from right there on 3rd Street all the way across to like the Boys Club, is it going to go all the way to there?
Tentatively. I mean, it's all still tentative right now. But the road would veer off just west of the Village Green. Where the old sock factory was, Charleston Hosiery was down there on the creek. And somewhere around in there, the road would veer off, and then it would follow 3rd Street over to the railroad track, and then tie back in somewhere else on the other side on Wildwood or Inman. I don't think the plans have gotten that part figured out yet.
Well, the idea of that is to divert traffic from going down Inman. That would allow it to be more, because you can't really walk down Inman right now. You'd be
You're
killed.
taking your life in your own hands if you do. It would divert traffic. It would address the issue of the low overpass.
It would address that one, which is an issue. You know, somebody told me that used to not be there, that they dug it out for the horses or something, that it used to go straight across there. And if you look at the terrain, I think maybe it did,
It may
because they
have.
didn't make it high enough.
And of course, you've got the issue there of the lay of the land right there. Because if you were to just go in there and dig it out deeper now, it'd flood.
It'd flood.
It'd flood.
I don't know why it keeps it from flooding
does
now,
occasionally
really.
flood now.
And your approach would have to be dug out further. It just doesn't work. It's got to be. That's the only option, isn't it, to go
It
to
is,
the left?
Because to raise the bridge itself requires such a distance on each side for the trains, because they can't just get there and jump higher.
I always thought there was, from right there where you're saying it would come back into Inman, from there to APD 40 is really a lot of room for progress, isn't it?
It
The
sure
roads
is.
are wide.
It sure
You got
is.
access to APD 40. But I don't know what to get down there. What do you get down there? Because businesses aren't like they used to be. They're not going to be there's not going to be many men's shops there.
No, I was glad to see Appliance Credit Union put their new building over there.
It looks nice.
It really looks nice.
And setting just about right for when you come down that road.
In that area, one thing that I know is badly needed is a grocery store. If you have any connection with grocers, you need to tell them.
You know, I
about that.
guess that would be over there where the old, what was it, the old bowling alley? Wasn't there a bowling
There was a
alley or
bowling
bowling alley? Right in there.
My dad used to be a pin setter there.
Is that right?
Yeah.
What are the odds of us bringing that up? He was a pin setter. So he had to step behind there and they didn't have the automatics. What year would that have been?
Oh, we're talking about a long time ago.
40s?
Maybe before. He was born 27.
Lord, he was. You know, I often thought somebody born in 27 would have come through the Depression or been born into it. It was going on. Whether you was into it or not, you knew it was happening. And then as soon as he got kind of to age and the economy got better, they sent him off to war.
He went, yeah.
And then just as soon as he had a child, they sent him to Vietnam. And then when he got back and things calmed down, you know, COVID hit or they started saying Social Security was no longer, or worrying about those people there. They were about 95 today, right? 96? They wouldn't borrow money for toilet paper, would they?
No. My dad's been gone 24 years now.
But am I right? He wouldn't have borrowed money. I mean, it had to
If he did, it hurt him. It hurt him to do it.
Isn't that something? Nowadays, where'd I sign? Right? They say that his generation was the greatest generation that made America.
I was trying to think. He went in the Army just about the end of World War II, I think, and served.
Because he was closer to the Depression. He'd have been worse if he'd have born in 1918 or something. He'd have been about right for all of it. Well, I tell you, things are ever evolving to the point that you've just got to get up every morning and see what's changed and how do I need to change the plan I had for yesterday. And if you're not doing that, you're going to get stuck somewhere.
And if you don't, it's going to run off and leave you.
And you can't catch up. You just won't be able to do it.
You know, I get concerned about young people today and just the basic need of owning a home. With the price of housing, of course, interest rates have gone up now. My youngest daughter and her husband built a house, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. And I've said so many times that I'm glad they got it built when they did.
Oh, yeah. That was like the perfect time. If there was a perfect time, that was it. But here's what I always wondered. the payment on these $400,000 houses, because let's face it, it's about $350, $325, right? Mm-hmm. And that's almost for just a little bit more than a starter home. Mm-hmm. You figure, well, they've got to make, the old rule of thumb was your house payment, your household expenses, which was insurance, taxes, and mortgage, was supposed to be about 1/4 of what you make. Mm-hmm. So if you got say even a $300,000 house, mm-hmm. then the payments on that I guess 30-year mortgage is, if you don't have a 30-year mortgage, you're not going to pay for it. It's just too hard for a house. Mm-hmm. Because if you had to pay it off 20 years, a lot of people couldn't afford a house. Mm-hmm. So that's why they have 30-year mortgages. But the payment, I guess, would be, what, $1,800 a month, something like that? I don't know. So say $2,000 with taxes, mm-hmm. insurance. Well, if that's a fourth, that's $8,000 a month. Who's paying them? What are they doing to earn $8,000 a month? That's the dilemma. It's not, mm-hmm. to me, it's not can they make it and pay, but can that employer keep paying $8,000? Because that person's got to make them 9. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He's got to make them 10 because they got all those.
I can't answer that question, but it's something that's concerning. I know. When I look at what our national debt is, 37 or $38 trillion, how long can we sustain interest payments on that kind of debt?
Yeah, and then you talk to some people say, well, it doesn't matter. Well, if that doesn't matter.
It may not matter to me at my age, but to my children and grandchildren, I think it's going to matter.
Here's what I think is going to happen. I think that you take back in the 90s, mm-hmm. when I was building houses, custom houses. Mm-hmm. For like 15 years straight, I had a custom house going every single day. Not one single day till I was 42 was I not building a custom house for somebody. Mm-hmm. Not a house sale, a custom house, mm-hmm. a customer. And then they would say, well, how big is our porch? And I'd say, how much is it? And I'd say, X amount of dollars. And I'd say, well, just put it all the way around the house. Because they just would borrow it and it didn't matter because they're going to pay for it by the month, mm-hmm. which worked. It worked. Mm-hmm. But then all of a sudden, 08 hit. And if you were living in 08, if you were a young guy, mm-hmm. that was the same guy that was like your dad, born in the Depression. Mm-hmm. It's not near as bad. 08 was not as bad as the Depression, but to him it was, because mm-hmm. the worst thing you've ever experienced is the worst thing you've ever experienced. Mm-hmm. And they saw that. And I think that guy today is 25. Right? No, he'd be 8 from 23. He'd be about 15, 16. Mm-hmm. That's the guy we're trying to do business with. No, let's see, what would that be? 28, that'd be 18, 28, about 15 years. So that's the guy that we're going to be doing business with in the next 5 years, 6 years. Mm-hmm. Well, that guy's going to be similar to your dad. He saw what Dad did. Mm-hmm. He doesn't want the porch to go all the way around the house. Mm-hmm. He might even just decide to rent for 5 years, and the contract is more on the guy that owns the property.
What's concrete a yard now, Dee?
170.
170.
It was 34 when I started.
I remember my dad built a house in the early 70s. We dug and poured the footings. The bill came from Cleveland Ready Mix for the concrete. It's $12 a yard. And I remember Daddy thinking, this is awful. This is just the footings. We'll never get the house up. $12 a yard.
$12 a yard. And now...
But now everything's relative. I mean, wages were not what they were now.
No, but it does tell us this. Things go up. Mm-hmm. Things don't go down. And that may be what what we started out with this conversation is things have to progress, and maybe money does too, for it to sustain.
Yeah.
So I just think that the new generation of people that we're going to be doing business with are not going to be interested in long-term commitments or debt. And I think that they're going to be more satisfied in living with 1,200 square feet that's clean and safe and easy to maintain.
And easy to pay for.
And easy to pay for. And they'll take the extra money and the extra time that they're not working for that, and they'll go up here and on a hike and take some really nice pictures and create some memories. And I'm not so sure that they're not smarter than we are.
You may be onto something there. You may be.
And the burden will be on the property owner. Who can I get to help me pay for this? Who can I get to help me pay for this property tax?
But all this discussion we've had comes back to it's gonna change.
It's going to change.
It's not going to remain the same.
I had a good friend of mine that was real smart. He said, Dee, the secret to success is monitor and adjust, monitor and adjust.
It's good advice.
Ken, I appreciate you coming.
Hey, I appreciate it.
I've really enjoyed it. Thanks a lot.
I have too.